Hi, this is Peter. Welcome to Entrepreneurs Anonymous, where we talk about the challenges and opportunities of being an entrepreneur in South Africa.
Hey guys, my name is Nathan Smith.
Hi everyone, my name is Nandi.
Hi, I'm Felix Brendel.
Hi, my name is Heather Others.
Hey yo, what's good? It's your boy Lord Lucretius.
I'm a freelance videographer and aspiring documentary filmmaker. I specialize in event, brand engagement, a bit of fashion, and then music.
I'm a freelance photographer. I'm also award-winning fun contemporary photographer. Currently, I'm delving in fashion photography where I work with fashion brands, as well as model agencies.
I'm the divisional head of the laboratory by Tetrad Group. We're a brand strategy consultancy with a deep focus on audio-visual production.
I'm a marketing consultant and I specialize in social media.
I'm an artist from South Africa, specializing in conveying the human condition through poetry and arts.
You can put yourself into a place where it's so cheap it doesn't
People don't respect it.
as it should be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, he's a cheap developer, but because he's so cheap, the level of like work he's giving you, you're taking that with that little side notes of
Yeah, I should probably check the work.
Exactly. Compared to if you paid the full price. So sometimes it's about your own peace of mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Honestly speaking. Like
I mean,
if you pay for half the job, you get half the job.
I mean, this actually takes us quite naturally into the next topic, which is I ripped off a Reddit, one of my favorite subreddits called Choosey Beggars. That's so funny.
Love that.
It's basically just stories of people trying to get people like you to do work for free for exposure. Or like, I've got a free couch to give away, and someone will be reply and say, how much will you pay me to collect it? Like, no, my friend, I'm not paying you to collect a free couch. You come and get it. Anyway, so the topic is more or less, how do you, especially starting out, right? What value does exposure actually have? It's not, we joke about it, but I mean, I've seen portfolios of freelancers where quite prominently on their sites is, I've worked with Deloitte and FNB, and they name the big guys because that's kind of a credibility mark, and that's got value. So there is value in doing work for big brands.
Somebody like that will never let you work for exposure.
No. But,
Some of them do.
Deloitte.
Depending on, okay, not Deloitte, but I guess commercial brands would. FSPs and law firms wouldn't necessarily.
Yeah. But I think the question is, when you're starting out and there's an opportunity to work for exposure, I mean, you're laughing because the answer is never. No. But I mean, I want to hear your view.
It depends how it's approached. So I actually think exposure is worth a lot. And I don't say this as a person who offers work or does thing or brings people in and pays them by exposure. I don't do that. But on the other hand, I would take it because all my life, I had a lot of these guys milk me basically, and I was doing like crazy work, but I never felt bad because I actually felt like I was milking them, even though I wasn't getting money. I viewed every single person, and I say this with a lot of respect, as a stepping stone or as a ladder, just a piece in that ladder. So I would go to you and I would look at people, and I remember all of these people. I can name every single one of them right now. From when I left school, the first promoter that picked me up, the first DJ that taught me how to DJ, the first club owner, the first person at a corporate company, the first marketing manager, the first CEO, whatever, every single one of those guys. I always looked at them and I thought, yo, this guy is crazy. This guy's a legend. And I started working for him and they paid me nothing, whatever. They paid me like a little bit of money or gave me drinks or whatever. And then I'd watch everything they did, every little thing. And because you build this, I think if you have good relationship building skills, you get very close to them and they'll show you pretty much everything. And I just learn. Naturally, like progressively, I just looked at everything they did. So, okay, kept notes of it. You make notes. And then eventually you get to the point where you're doing all of this for them because they've taught you now, you do it for them. And you go, I can do this better than you. Yeah. And I had some moments where I like cried. I went to the guys that I worked with for a number of years, invested in a project of mine. It gave me everything. They helped me with everything. Actually did me really well. Some other people before didn't. And I was like getting tears in my eyes. And I'm like, I'm so thankful for everything you guys did for me. But like I'm here now. I can do this on my own. And I unfortunately don't see the value in doing this with you guys anymore. No problem. Still have a fantastic relationship with all of them, and even all the other guys. But I think. So I think exposure is worth a lot, but I think it's how you approach it is the other person. I don't appreciate maybe the way people did it to me, where they promised and they would say, "Hey, listen, buddy, you first have to earn your belt and your colors and stuff." I disagree. I would rather say, "Hey, listen, I don't have much to give. Be transparent. I'm going to teach you as much as possible. I'm going to open up. If you like it, take it. There's no pressure. It's all I have at the moment. But be honest. If you have to give and you're making people do it for exposure, that's not cool. If you don't have to give, if you don't have anything to give, really don't have anything to give, then...
And the worst I can say is no, but I know you want to say something.
Let's bring it
First of all, exposure, how long's a piece of string?
Yeah.
You know, it really depends on picking your battles. And like very much in tune with what you were saying, every single relationship, regardless of if it's romantic, business orientated, a friendship is a transaction.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to be getting what you're putting in. Life's like a credit card. Like if you're not going to be putting in, at some point it's just going to run out. And working for exposure is very, very relevant to where you are in your career as a creative. And you need to suss out every single opportunity where you will be working for exposure. I'm going to use myself as a great example. I started shooting for shows just for fun. Started in bars, met musicians, started building relationships, started shooting park acoustics for fun, for tickets, for friends.
So you actually went to them and said, "I'll do it for nothing."
Yeah, I just started showing up, taking photos.
Oh, so you like bought your tickets?
Yeah. And then they started being
Probably the best marketing method ever.
And they started sending me like, "Okay, yeah, dude, here's 4 tickets. We'll give you a meal. Like, here's $100 to spend at the bar, whatever." And then they were like, "We want you to be the official photographer." I was like, "Cool. Are you gonna pay me for it?" They started paying me for it, and now it's got to such a point where they are literally my biggest client. They pay me super well. They make sure that I'm invested in, that I'm constantly growing, and exposure can be one of the best things, especially for a creative starting out. But you have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Because I have spent many hours working away for free, putting myself in compromising situations, just burning myself out for people who, in retrospect, honestly, it was just
trying to take advantage.
Because you're trying to chase clout, or it doesn't mean anything. If there's no actual view or commitment from their side, don't get involved.
But you turned it into a tool, basically.
Yes, also bartering.
Bartering.
Among creatives, bartering is one of your most powerful tools. You need a website done? Shoot a video for someone. You want a tattoo?
Yeah.
That's the one that I use.
Oh my God. I'll shoot your I have probably paid for 3 tattoos in my entire life. But it's like, we have to support each other and, once again, just suss everything out.
He did pay tax on that bartering system.
I fully agree with that. And I think, like, to just add on to that, actually, exposure itself, there's nothing wrong with exposure. But you need to know what and who you're being exposed to.
Yeah.
What's the actual end goal of doing this?
What does success look like from getting exposure?
Exactly. I mean, because let's say, okay, for a musician, like some good exposure could be an open mic, or like say a big artist says, "Yo, come and open up for me." Some good questions to ask could be like, how many people are gonna be there? Who's gonna be there?
Is it a paid gig?
How is it promoted?
Right? Like,
Like,
because maybe you could go there and meet.
It could be their nephew's bar mitzvah.
So it could be anything, but ultimately, as well, it's kind of like a half-half. Like, exposure itself is very neutral, but as a person, your attitude and the level of your naivete, how naive you are can put you in a compromising position. But if you have boundaries, if you have a good head on your shoulders, you can use exposure to tenfold your progress just because you're in the right room with the right person and you can have the right conversation. But that's not to say that's going to happen every time. So you just need to, like you said, pick your battles, because not all exposure is good exposure. You don't need to meet everyone on this
Well,
earth.
funny enough, sometimes when someone is screwing you over by giving you exposure, you actually get value out of it. There's the right people.
Exactly.
As
You
much
mean
as you're
like bad
shooting yourself in the
publicity?
foot. No, not bad publicity. Let's say they're paying you nothing, but they really could pay you to perform at this festival. But because you there, this promoter was there, and this A&R guy from a record label was there, etc.
you, yeah.
And they're like, oh no, I'm suing this guy. But you get there and you actually won. So sometimes you got to shoot yourself in the foot to be able to. take that
I've
stuff.
got a non-creative version of exposure that also happens. That can be quite tricky because I got myself into a situation like this before where it's the same kind of argument, is that there's not cash right now, but we need your skills to do X, Y, and Z. And in return for that, you get equity. Now
That's awesome.
that is
Depends
That's
what this
awesome.
company.
It depends if they even have equity.
yeah. But the challenge with that, so the one I'm doing it on, I think it's going to work out, so it'll be fine. But the problem with that one is that it's not that you're going to go shoot it's not exposure in a creative space. I think is going to be quite a defined event. So you're either doing an event for free or you're doing a shoot for free, but when you're going to get equity in something that you're going to help build, that string is long, and you're like, jeez, I wasn't like.
And at the end,
I know, and you got that sunk cost fallacy. So you put all the effort in, you can't really walk away now because you feel kind of committed, and that is just like that can be a pit. So if I was going to do that in retrospect, I would say, and I mean, I like the guys I'm working with. I'm happy with it, but I would have said, yes, I will do this piece for equity, but up to 100 hours over 6 months, and then we can talk again. But I didn't do that, so now I'm on the. But I mean, I could just say no more, and then it's
A
done. But then-
renegotiation, maybe?
yeah, but it's almost just too late now.
yeah.
Oh,
You also need to know when to walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take that out.
I think. You want to continue?
No.
Doing stuff for equity is.
Beyonce did it. She did it for Uber, and she's 400 million rand richer. Dollars rather richer.
Uber.
Beyonce.
Oh, I don't
She performed for an Uber event, I think, or one of these top. What are these? Facebook? Is it Silicon Valley? Whatever.
Yeah.
Tech
She,
companies.
one of those tech companies. She performed one performance and she asked for equity, and now the value's gone up to 400 mil.
Yeah, but that's like
And-
a lucky shot. in-
That's what I'm thinking when you say equity. I'm like, okay.
But it's like
No, but think about
she's also
it this
Beyonce.
way. It's like someone coming to you and saying, I'm going to launch a fashion magazine. I want you to do all the work for it and you'll own 10%. That's what I'm talking about.
No,
It's
no,
like,
no, no, no.
Yeah. 10% of zero.
yeah, it's still zero.
So my exposure now, back then I used to do things for free, but my exposure now is magazine features and exhibitions. I don't do exposure anymore.
Something
So you've
that doesn't-
defined exactly
I've
what you
defined.
do.
I think another version of exposure, which is something I would recommend not doing, because okay, we're not necessarily in the creative space, but it doesn't work. Is that I won't say it's a grift again, but often the conferencing circuit is a money-making scheme by conference organizers.
Yeah.
So they were like, we're having a fintech conference, the biggest one in Cape Town, and then what they do is they'll sell tickets for a lot of money to corporates who will happily buy them.
Yeah.
And then they come and get, don't you want to come and speak at the conference for free
What?
for exposure? Like,
No.
No.
You have no idea how long it
A lot
takes
of
to
conference charge the speakers to get onto the table. I've seen a lot of that. You have to pay to be.
Yeah, it's even
Yeah.
even worse.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't appreciate how much time it takes to prepare a good 45-minute presentation.
Yeah.
It's like 10x that to put in.
Yeah.
If you're gonna,
PowerPoint slides too.
but just even getting your narrative right and getting it waxed and being able to deliver it properly.
Would you do it for a TEDx?
Not a TEDx.
Yeah, because
Would you do-
TEDx is
TEDx is super random.
independent.
Isn't that-
Organized.
Don't
So there's
they
a lot
don't
of
get
people.
paid, hey?
We need to speak about this. There's a lot of people that on their Instagram bio add in TEDx speaker, and you search it, and it's like 528 views.
Yeah.
Like your TEDx is basically a division that TED itself sold off, and it's independent.
TEDx is like a regional type thing. So,
So-
TED is proper.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just TED Talk. TEDx.
So
is
it's TED Talk now.
Yeah.
No,
so
TED Talk is the proper thing where they
TED
get
Talk-
millions of views. TEDx are just like
Mini version.
someone in their basement
Random,
holding a TED
yeah.
Talk.
It's basically a podcast.
Actually, it's a great business model of theirs. because they're promoters that will.
Yeah, I've turned down a couple of TEDx talks. Actually, but I turned them down because of conflict, because of diary clashes. But in retrospect, I've made the right decision.
I don't know, one of these days I'm going to open up your Instagrams, TEDx speaker.
I think
That's when
media,
my mom will know I made it.
I think in general, exposure now, especially if you experience, don't do it for free as much as you used to, because you have many media platforms. You've got radio, we've got this, you've got television, you've got social media, magazine
But I
features,
also think
all of
when
that.
when you're established, it's a better way to do the stuff for exposure is almost when it's for a worthy cause.
Yes,
So you want to
yes,
do a shoot
yes.
for whatever, like an
For
animal
charity
shelter.
or- yeah.
That's I think fair enough when you.
Yeah.
But if you played your exposure game the right way, you won't have to work for exposure again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just refuse.
Yeah.
It's not
Do you still get offered it?
every now and then, but like most
Like
of
I've
the
got 100 Instagram followers. I'll give you
I can't remember
exposure.
the last time I was asked that.
Yeah, eventually they look at you and look at your work and they know.
They know
what
that
kind of
this-
person
it just
you are.
says my bio
They know.
literally says no free shoots.
The moment they see award winning, they know I'm not going to do it for free.
Yeah.
Let's talk about awards quickly, because that's also a version of exposure.
It's
But
another
also, there's
version
quite
of
a lot
exposure.
effort goes into entering some of these things. And,
Yeah.
and
Sometimes you have
it's
to
worthwhile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most of the time.
You have to pay. As a photographer, you have to pay for however many images you want to
Submit.
submit for exhibitions or magazine features or just magazine. Sometimes they do covers with your work. It depends if it's that good and if it's in line with what they want to do. But what I found is that, again, credibility comes from award-winning stuff and being featured on stuff. Don't, if you feel like you when you're a freelancer and you feel like you've been taken advantage of, don't take the exposure, because you're not representing that brand the way that they should be. You're not doing them justice.
Oh yeah.
If Vans comes to you now and says, we'll give you exposure for doing this show for us and we'll say it's sponsored or whatever, and they say they're
I'll
going
do
to
it
pay
'cause
you,
it's Vans.
you'll do it because it's Vans, right? You'll do
I
it
love that brand.
because it's Vans. But what happens if you actually wanted money out of it and that day you decided not to wear your shoes because you were in a bad day, you had a bad morning, and oh flip, they're not even paying me anyways. Oh flip, I wore the wrong shoes. It's because your attitude towards it was not right anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to ask you to, don't ask me for exposure if you know that I'm not going to represent you guys well.
Yeah.
That's another thing, because it can shoot you in the foot.
You
It
get
can
what
give
you pay for.
bad exposure.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah,
You would also
people
have-
look at the quality of your work and they're like, that's terrible because you weren't invested.
Yeah, but also
Exactly.
the paying client's always going to go top of the pile.
yeah.
So I've got work to do. These are not going to pay bills. That exposure client goes to
But
the bottom
maybe
of
that's
this.
also another point. Like you said, being a photographer, you've got seasons. So
Yes.
maybe in a low season, like you're not going to get other paid work,
You exhibit.
and then something comes along, and you're like, okay, well, I'll take it now because I know there's nothing else
Yeah.
coming. So it can also work that
Yeah.
way.
So I have like a little bit of a question around that. Say that you have a client who it just makes sense to work with this person, like the money makes sense, the brand aligns with your vision. At what point, and you guys can also just like expand on this, but what's the line where you say no, like this
Intuition.
person's character, how they're treating this is not for me, let's cut this whole deal, even if financially it makes sense. What's that line for you to where your own like values and morals are like, nah, this is not
I think you
aligned.
answered it right.
Trust your gut.
Yeah.
We freelancers, most of our decisions are based on our gut.
Yeah.
You know when you're entering a bad deal.
Yeah.
You know, because you've seen it, you've felt it, you've
Yeah.
smelt it. If someone
Is
says
this like a paid deal or an exposure deal?
No paid.
paid, like if everything is right, the
It
money's
is
right,
very
the
hard
brand is
to
right.
turn down money.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you find yourself sitting at home after a long day, or no, if you find yourself sitting on the weekend, I don't know, I think there's a bit of pain involved in everything. Sometimes I believe in, you got to go through that tough stuff.
Yeah.
And I went through some really ugly clients that would say, this sucks, this is terrible, what am I paying you for?
Yeah.
And that taught me a bit of like, okay, being tough. But if you're going week after week, month after month, year after year, sitting on the weekend and saying, I'm dreading Monday to come because I have to do this thing for that client.
It's a good sign.
Same
good
thing
sign.
with a relationship. Like,
But what do you
gotta
do
be
then?
honest.
You know
Honestly,
they're your
it's
biggest
policy.
clients.
That's a good question. How do you fire a client? Do we have that coming up actually?
But how do you fire a client if they're your biggest client and you know that you need that client and you know that you're not happy, but they are your biggest client? What you're saying, the money makes sense, everything makes sense.
And you need that back.
And you need that back.
You were speaking about this a little bit earlier about like your long-term goal. Sometimes I would say there I'm a bit more of a like I'm a bit more tough. I think in those situations, I would say go through it.
Yeah.
If this stepping stone is going to get you where you need to go financially, like power through it and do whatever you can. If
But
it's
look for a way or plan for a way out.
Yes,
exactly,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
But also it's just keeping open communication with clients. As much as they have a say over the work that you produce,
Yeah.
you have a say about how it's communicated, how they treat you. It's a relationship. You need to communicate always.
Entrepreneurs Anonymous is proudly brought to you by Craft. Craft builds solutions for freelancers by